Let me tell you something most people get wrong. They think love is proven by staying. They think loyalty means holding on tighter when you're being replaced. But sometimes the strongest move you can make is to step back, stay silent, and let life do the explaining for you. Because when you detach with dignity, you don't lose power, you transfer it. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood acts of strength. People hear the word and assume it means coldness, indifference, or emotional shutdown. It doesn't. Detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of it. It is the moment you decide that your emotions will no longer run your life like an untamed horse, dragging you wherever impulse and fear want to go. Discipline steps in where desperation once lived. You still feel the loss, the confusion, the ache, but you no longer let those feelings dictate your actions. That restraint is not weakness. That restraint is power under control. There is nothing weak about choosing dignity over chaos. Weakness is reacting to every urge to text, call, explain, or prove your worth to someone who already saw it and still chose to walk away. Detachment says, I know what I bring to the table, and I don't need to flip the table over to remind you. It takes discipline to stop chasing answers that will not heal you. It takes discipline to sit with discomfort without trying to numb it through attention, validation, or false hope. Most people don't have that discipline, which is why detachment looks rare, and rare things are often mistaken for fragile. Discipline means you understand timing. You understand that forcing connection at the wrong moment destroys respect. When emotions are high, words lose value. When someone feels chased, they don't feel loved, they feel pressured. Detachment removes that pressure. It allows space for clarity to enter the room. Not clarity for you, you already know what you felt, but clarity for him. And that space only exists when you are strong enough to stop reaching. Anyone can react. Anyone can beg. Anyone can collapse into emotion. But it takes a disciplined mind to say, I will not abandon myself just to keep someone else. Detachment also requires self-command. You are telling yourself that your worth is not dependent on someone else's attention, affection, or confusion. That is not an easy conversation to have internally. It means confronting the fear of being forgotten, replaced, or misunderstood, and choosing self-respect anyway. Discipline means you don't negotiate with loneliness by sacrificing your standards. You don't trade peace for temporary reassurance. You don't perform emotional labor for someone who is no longer investing. You step back not because you lost, but because you refuse to lose yourself. And understand this, discipline always feels uncomfortable at first. Muscles ache before they grow. Minds resist before they sharpen. Detachment stretches parts of you that were used to over-giving, over-explaining, and over-waiting. It forces you to sit still while every instinct tells you to move. But that stillness is not empty. It is loaded. It is teaching you patience, restraint, and self-trust. And while it may look like silence from the outside, on the inside it is a decision being reinforced daily. I will no longer confuse attachment with love or endurance with loyalty. That is not weakness. That is a controlled, deliberate strength most people never develop. Silence is one of the most powerful tools in the arsenal of someone who knows their worth. Most people underestimate it, thinking that if they just keep talking, explaining, or convincing, they will secure the outcome they desire. But constant noise, texts, calls, explanations rarely changes hearts. It only fills space, creates pressure, and delays the inevitable. Silence, on the other hand, doesn't argue or justify. It simply exists. And in that existence, it forces truth to reveal itself. When you stop participating in the chaos, reality begins to speak in a way words never could. When you detach through silence, you allow life to reflect what has been ignored. Patterns that were invisible when you were constantly engaged become glaringly clear. He notices the absence, the space you once filled with your attention, care, and energy. That emptiness is a mirror, sometimes the first honest reflection a person sees of their own choices. People rarely recognize what they've lost until the person they took for granted stops showing up. Silence isn't passive. It is a catalyst for self-awareness, a quiet confrontation that doesn't require argument or confrontation. Silence also carries dignity. There is power in restraint. It signals that your life, your energy, and your presence are not commodities to be traded for excuses or half-hearted affection. When you stop chasing, you reclaim authority over your emotional domain. You demonstrate that your value is independent of validation from someone who may not yet recognize it. And that demonstration, done quietly, without fanfare, is far more persuasive than any speech or plea could ever be. The truth becomes unavoidable when it is no longer drowned out by frantic insistence. Furthermore, silence tests intentions. It separates those who are genuinely willing to meet you at your level from those who are only interested in convenience. People rarely pursue someone who is unavailable in a controlling, desperate way. They either adjust, step up, or fade away. In this way, your silence acts as a sieve, letting only those who truly care, respect, and understand your value remain in the orbit of your life. Anything else is naturally filtered out, leaving space for clarity and authenticity. Finally, silence allows the mind to process and reflect without distortion. When emotions are high and words are constantly exchanged, the truth gets lost in the noise. By stepping back, you create a calm, steady environment in which both you and he must confront reality honestly. No distractions, no manipulations, no defenses. Only the stark truth of what is, what was, and what cannot be ignored. Silence is not absence of action. It is the most deliberate, intentional form of action. And in that space, reality speaks loudest of all, revealing both character and consequence in the most undeniable way. Not every new relationship is born from love. Some are born from avoidance, distraction, or the desperate need to fill a void. When someone steps into a new connection immediately after losing you, it is rarely because they've healed or grown. It is often because they are running from something they were unwilling or unable to face before. And make no mistake, anything built on escape is unstable. It might look perfect at first, shiny and captivating, but cracks always form. What is avoided never truly disappears. It only hides beneath the surface until it erupts again. New love that arrives too quickly often lacks foundation. It thrives on novelty rather than substance. It cannot withstand reflection, patience, or scrutiny because it was never designed to endure. Instead, it functions as a temporary shield against self-confrontation. He may feel the excitement of something fresh, the illusion of forgetting, but the underlying issues, the patterns, the insecurities, the lessons unlearned remain untouched. Sooner or later, they resurface, and the illusion begins to crumble. That is the irony of trying to replace what was real with what was convenient. The replacement is always a fragile version of reality. When a new love collapses, it doesn't happen quietly. The cracks start small, a missed connection here, an argument there. But eventually, they grow until the foundation can no longer hold. And in that moment, he will remember you. He will remember what was constant, what was real, and what he abandoned. That memory is inevitable because the truth of genuine connection cannot be replicated. The energy, the understanding, the unspoken bond, those are not things that can be replaced with someone who is merely convenient. He may try, but the comparison is unavoidable. This collapse also exposes motives and priorities. It shows him that running away from unresolved issues never solves them. It teaches the hard lesson that a person cannot be substituted, especially when what they offered was irreplaceable. Your absence becomes the measure of his choices, and he begins to see, sometimes too late, that his attempt to escape from reality only led him back to regret. The new love was never meant to survive because it never meant to face the truth. Ultimately, watching new love built on avoidance collapse is a lesson in inevitability. Life has a way of exposing illusions, especially those born from avoidance rather than understanding. Your detachment is not revenge. It is the space in which truth asserts itself. He will face what he cannot ignore, and in that confrontation, he will understand the depth of what he lost. Patterns, avoidance, and distractions fail under the weight of reality, always. And when they fail, the memory of your presence becomes the standard by which all replacements are measured. Presence can be taken for granted. When you are constantly there, available and accommodating, people often forget the weight of your contributions, the depth of your care, and the power of your influence. They grow accustomed to it, seeing it as expected rather than extraordinary. But absence has a way of illuminating what presence obscures. When you step back, withdraw, or detach, suddenly the room or life is quieter, emptier, and noticeably lacking. Your absence does not go unnoticed, it echoes. And it is in that echo that your true value is finally recognized. Absence acts as a mirror for reflection. When you were there, he may have overlooked the countless small gestures, the unwavering support, the times you held space for him even when it was inconvenient. But when you're gone, those details start to resurface in memory. Every missed text, every unreceived call, every moment of your presence that once felt ordinary now weighs heavily on him. The contrast between your absence and the emptiness that follows highlights what he took for granted. The truth is harsh. Sometimes people only realize what they had when it is gone. There is also a subtle, almost unavoidable psychological effect in play. Humans are wired to notice scarcity. The less available something or someone is, the more attention it commands. By withdrawing, you activate that instinct in him. Your absence forces him to confront questions he avoided while you were constantly within reach. Was I too careless? Did I truly appreciate what I had? Could I have handled this differently? These reflections are uncomfortable, but they are necessary for him to recognize the depth of your worth. Beyond recognition, absence allows you to reclaim your own perspective. When you are constantly present for someone else, you risk losing sight of your own growth and needs. Stepping back gives you space to reevaluate what you want, what you will tolerate, and what boundaries you must set. It is a moment of clarity for both parties. He is faced with the reality of your value, and you are reminded of your own strength and independence. Presence alone cannot teach these lessons. Absence is what makes them unavoidable. Finally, absence transforms perception into longing. It creates a sense of missing that words or gestures cannot replicate. When someone experiences what life feels like without you, they begin to measure every replacement, every fleeting connection against the standard you set simply by being yourself. Your absence does not coerce, manipulate, or punish. It reveals, it unveils the reality that what was once overlooked is, in truth, irreplaceable. And in that revelation, your value shines brightest. While he is caught up in distractions, new relationships, or fleeting attachments, you are evolving. Growth is not always visible immediately, but it is profound in its effect. Every choice you make to prioritize yourself, every habit you build, every boundary you enforce contributes to a version of yourself that he no longer recognizes. This is the paradox of personal growth. It is invisible in the moment, yet impossible to ignore when it manifests. When you change, the dynamic between you and him changes too. What once felt familiar now feels unfamiliar, and what was once ordinary becomes extraordinary. Growth is about reclaiming power over your own narrative. It is about realizing that your self-worth cannot be defined by someone else's attention, affection, or mistakes. When you grow, you stop negotiating for validation. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces where you are no longer valued. This transformation is not just internal, it is visible in your posture, your confidence, and your interactions. And when someone who once overlooked you sees this evolved version, the game changes completely. They realize that the person they left behind is no longer the same, and that recognition is both humbling and jarring. The process of growth also teaches resilience. Every setback, heartbreak, or moment of betrayal becomes an opportunity to strengthen your emotional intelligence and self-reliance. You learn to stand without support, to find joy without external validation, and to measure success by your own standards rather than someone else's approval. Growth forces you to develop patience, understanding, and clarity, all qualities that make your presence more valuable and your absence more impactful. When he encounters this evolved version of you, it is no longer about needing you back. It is about confronting the reality that the person who once existed is gone, and they can never be replicated. Growth shifts priorities. As you evolve, you attract opportunities, people, and experiences that align with your newfound values. The old dynamic, where he had influence, control, or expectation over your time and energy, can no longer exist. You operate on a higher frequency, making it impossible for someone who remains stagnant to relate fully. This shift changes the balance of power naturally. What once felt like a connection defined by familiarity now becomes a situation defined by choices, boundaries, and self-respect. You are no longer available as a constant. You are selective, intentional, and discerning. Finally, growth solidifies self-respect. The more you invest in becoming the best version of yourself, the less you tolerate behaviors that once undermined your worth. This is where the ultimate truth of detachment lies. When you grow, you are no longer waiting for someone else to recognize your value. They must adapt, evolve, or face the consequences of losing you. Growth is not revenge. It is a natural, unstoppable transformation. It changes everything. The way you see yourself, the way he sees you, and the way the world perceives the unshakable strength of someone who refuses to remain small for anyone else. There may come a time when he realizes he wants you back. He may reach out, apologize, or try to recreate the past. But needing you does not automatically mean he deserves you. There is a distinction that cannot be ignored. Necessity is born from convenience, loneliness, or regret, while worthiness is earned through growth, respect, and genuine understanding. Being needed is an external, reactive feeling. Being deserved is an internal, conscious acknowledgement of your value. Understanding this difference is the foundation of true detachment. Needing you is often tied to scarcity. He may suddenly recognize that what he lost is not easily replaced, that the space you occupied cannot be filled by someone else, or that the comfort you provided is rare. This realization can be compelling, even urgent, and it may tempt him to return. But urgency is not an indicator of love, commitment, or respect. It is a reaction to absence. Deserving you, on the other hand, requires reflection, accountability, and effort. It demands that he confronts the reasons he lost you and proves, not just claims, that he has changed. It is also important to remember that needing you back does not guarantee alignment with your current self. While he may reach for what once existed, you are no longer the same person he left behind. Growth, experience, and self-respect have reshaped you, And the person you are now cannot be contained by the dynamics of the past. Deserving you means meeting you at the level you've attained, not expecting you to return to where you once were. If he cannot rise to that, then his need is irrelevant. It is insufficient. Needing you back can also be a test of integrity. It reveals true intentions and exposes whether his actions are motivated by love or by convenience. A person who truly deserves you will not only seek reconciliation, but will also show consistent commitment, respect for boundaries, and a willingness to rebuild trust. Someone who simply needs you back will often stop short of these steps, seeking the comfort of familiarity without addressing the deeper issues that caused the separation. Recognizing this distinction is crucial for protecting your peace and self-worth. Finally, understanding the difference between being needed and being deserved empowers you to maintain your boundaries with clarity and confidence. Detachment becomes not an act of spite, but an exercise of self-respect. You can watch as life presents the possibility of his return without losing sight of the fact that your presence is not negotiable. It is earned. Needing you back is a reflection of his awareness of loss. Deserving you is a reflection of his willingness to grow, change, and honor what he once overlooked. And it is only those who are willing to do that who ever truly belong in your life again. So detach, not in anger, not in bitterness, but with unwavering strength. Let life do what it always does. Teach lessons through absence, reflection, and consequence. Let him face the reality that what was lost cannot be replaced by convenience, distractions, or fleeting attempts at reconciliation. And if he comes back, it must not be because he is lonely or seeking comfort. It must be because he has truly understood, truly changed, and truly values what he once took for granted. Your presence is not a gift to be begged for. It is a choice to be respected. Walk confidently in that truth, because the person who returns to your life should not simply need you. They must deserve you. And knowing that difference is the ultimate power. Your detachment is not absence. It is a declaration that you know your worth, you honor your boundaries, and you will never settle for anything less than what you are truly due. Step back, let the dust settle, and watch the story unfold. In that quiet, in that space, life will reveal the truth, and you will stand unshaken, untouchable, and undeniably whole.